I'm a member of the Sunrise Movement.
I'm also part of the Sunrise Movement.
I chair the Sustainability Advisory Board.
I'm a member of the Sunrise Movement here today.
I'm one of the organizers of the Climate Rally.
A member of the Indigenous community, lifelong Lawrence Kansan.
I'm a member of Sunrise Movement and a Latina community member too, here in Lawrence.
I'm here today to raise concerns about the lack of funding in the 2022 budget
for the strategic plan's commitment to environmental sustainability in our sustainability office.
I urge you to prioritize the Lawrence Climate Action Plan in the 2022 budget.
There is a difference between saying that you're going to do something, saying that you support a movement, or saying that you want to be progressive, and actually doing those things.
I have yet to see any action.
Despite the fact that the City of Lawrence committed to the 5 principles of the Green New Deal in February, this budget does not reflect that commitment.
With the current funding of the Sustainability Office, it does not have the necessary staff to make these principles a reality and to effectively mitigate climate change.
Our community deserves access to fresh and healthy food, clean water, and good air. You promised this to us when you committed to Principle 4 of the Green New Deal, and I ask that you fulfill this promise.
The budget must take into account sustainability and mitigating climate change.
This looks like, but is not limited to, changing the budget to put direct funds into the Sustainability Office, which currently does not have the capacity or proper staff levels to support a cultural shift in the climate change realm.
I know in this budget there's only a recommendation of funding for 1 additional Sustainability Office staff member.
To be honest, 1 staff member is not enough to aggressively tackle this commitment.
Fund the Sustainability Office and give them more than 1 additional staff member.
The strategic plan states that it has measurable goals. However, those are not outlined in the strategic plan. This is why the Sustainability Advisory Board is advocating for a larger staff for the Sustainability Office. We need to have those measurable goals in the strategic plan. We need to have the staff with technical knowledge to advise infrastructure, to advise economic development, to advise what the strategic plan as it is put into implementation.
1 additional staff member cannot fix our climate issue, just like 1 city commissioner cannot fix the entire city's problems.
I'm a public health professional, and our whole thing in our field is prevention. But climate crisis is happening now. We don't have time for prevention. We need time for action.
Lawrence has been my home since 2019, when I left Paraguay. Ever since, I have seen my home country suffer unimaginable consequences of climate change. Last week, for example, for the 2nd time this year, destructive wildfires caused by unbearably high temperatures have caused the air quality to be so low that it was no longer healthy for humans to breathe.
I grew up in Lawrence, Kansas. I've spent the last 5 years in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm evacuating Hurricane Ida.
I had to watch the skies turn orange, the air turn into smoke, and the cheerful loud streets turn into silent, as citizens had to lock themselves into their homes because the outside was no longer safe for them.
I'm here to warn you about the crisis we are facing and the devastation that will come. Lawrence and the state of Kansas will face climate impacts, including extreme drought, severe flooding, as well as heat and other horrible impacts. We know that our most vulnerable populations will be hit first.
You know, we have a homeless population and they end up in the hospital because of heat stroke or heat exhaustion, extreme cold temperatures.
Funding allocated for housing does not clearly outline how sustainability is going to be a part of that.
A lot of times, us BIPOC communities, minorities, and working class have to endure the short end of the straw on that.
In the past, Sunrise has shown up. You've said, great, keep us accountable. Well, we shouldn't have to keep you accountable. You should be hiring people to do this work. We are volunteers. We're not paid. We're basically begging you for our lives because we're going to have to deal with climate change.
One of the main points that Sunrise is making tonight is that the Sustainability Office is not being funded properly. The only reason that we understand this is because we met directly with city employees who informed us that the requested positions had been denied.
The 5 principles of the Green New Deal were adopted by the Sustainability and Advisory Board and then by the city, and yet climate change appears nowhere in the budget.
There is a relatively small section tucked away under the office of the city manager titled Sustainability, but without any description, it'd be impossible to understand the context of the $170,000 allocated. The reason that I'm able to tell any of you this now is because when I was working on figuring out the transparency website, I was on break from school with a lot of free time on my hands. I also had several members of the Sunrise to collaborate with, and I do enjoy picking apart difficult interfaces. If any of these things were different, I wouldn't have been able to effectively decipher the transparency document. A constituent should not need hours of free time, a whole team of other people, and lots of patience with dense and confusing UI to read a budget that's frustratingly vague in the first place. Bottom line, if the point of the transparency document was to make the budget accessible and to make specific expenditures more widely understandable, it has failed. The website's interface must be streamlined and costs must be explained fully, not only for the sake of accessibility, but for the sake of democracy in Lawrence.
Please improve your website if you truly want easy and accessible transparency.
Lawrence has always hid its inaction behind this veil of being progressive, of being, a liberal oasis in the state of Kansas. And if you want that to be true, then you need to start acting like it.
Saying and voting for the Green New Deal and saying that you're supporting for it is no more than an empty platitude if you're not going to actually follow through with the substantive and structural steps to see it through.
You have the power to do so and to adequately fund this office so we can continue to meet the challenge of reducing greenhouse gas emissions and creating a sustainable future in Lawrence.
You have the power here today to help Lawrence become a true low carbon, resilient, and sustainable community.
I love Lawrence, and I'm confident that everyone here today committing their time and efforts to improve it loves this city as well. Hence, I ask that measures be taken before it is too late, before I have to see my home get destroyed again, and before any Lawrence citizen has to experience that. Climate change is not being treated as seriously as local authorities should. Like they say back in Paraguay, primero lo primero, first was first. Nothing, but absolutely nothing else matters if citizens of Lawrence cannot breathe the air, if we do not have access to clean water, and if our beautiful lands turn into waste.
I know I speak for many when I say we will be watching. We won't stop watching after this rally, and we will certainly be watching future budget processes. Sunrise Movement and the Lawrence community are not going anywhere. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time, commissioners.
Thanks.
And that's it. Thanks.
Gracias.